Welcome everybody to the Depths of Motherhood podcast. This is a special season dedicated to the tribe of the mother, but also I know any mothers listening will find this extremely valuable. I've created each episode to offer simple, digestible, and supportive information, which I hope will educate and inspire anyone who listens. So this is by popular demand. Please help us to educate and support the tribe holding the mother. Look forward to passionate and highly knowledgeable guests dedicated to reclaiming the essence of birth and embracing conscious parenting. Throughout our time together, our guests will serve as the guiding voices, illuminating the path towards a deeper understanding of preconception, pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. This is with the mother and the baby being the center of the exploration. In the show notes, you'll discover the link to Nourished Mother package, which will offer many different resources to complement each episode. This is free for all members in the Women's Circle, or £33 for everybody who just wants to purchase the package. A heartfelt thank you to our incredible guests and immense gratitude to my partner for supporting me on this creation. And finally, last but not least, special thank you to Araya, my daughter, for being the endless well of inspiration. Welcome everybody, I'm your host Danielle. This week we welcome Debra Kilby onto the show. Debra is the author of Rose's Choice, A Journey to the World of the Spirit Baby and How We Can Build a New Earth Together. She is a spirit baby medium, conscious conception specialist, channel, healer, and spiritual guide. Debra supports women on their journey to motherhood, whether they are struggling to conceive, have experienced baby loss, or a traumatic birth. Debra's own challenging journey to motherhood through birth trauma, 3 miscarriages, and a medical termination catapulted her into her spiritual awakening and discovering her life purpose. Her soul's contract is to bring women, their babies, and future babies together to heal the deep wounds of the mother and the divine feminine within this lifetime and others. Through deep, loving, inner exploration, Debra guides women to transform their perception and understanding of themselves and their journey, to move from a place of questioning and pain to one of freedom, self-awareness, belief, and empowerment, to come to know themselves as living and powerful creators of life with the ability to hold and birth the energy of new life. Debra works alongside spirit babies to help moms see themselves as they see them. This conversation really shifted my perception on many things and opened my eyes and my mind and my heart to go beyond the limitations that I had put on myself. One of the things that I found so beautiful was this message she received about the soul's connection to their parents and how it goes beyond the fears, the traumas, the beliefs, to connect to the deeper essence. And she shares how we can make space in our life to tune in to our own essence and also to receive messages from these spirit babies so that they can support us on our journey. And I talk about my own experience of when I first came into contact with Araya many years before she was born, and also how when I first met her dad, I had this very intense experience. The connection I had with Elan was deeply energetic, and it wasn't about the conversation or the way that he looked. It was something much deeper than that. And when I first said goodbye to him, it wasn't even after our first date. It was before that. We just met in a coffee shop and we said goodbye, and as I walked away from him, I felt like I was gonna faint. Like my energy just fell to the ground, and I had to hold myself up on a wall as I was walking down these narrow streets in Guatemala. And I had to take a moment to really bring myself back and to catch my breath. And I actually forgot my water bottle, and so I went back and I found Elan laid out on this sofa, and later on he told me he had a very similar experience. I feel like this conversation is really asking us to remember our unique essence beyond everything that we've been told or that we think about ourselves. And I want to share a little bit about my private session with Debra. Originally, we thought it was to work through my birth trauma, but it came to light that there was something else that wanted to be received. And it was really surprising because I actually got guided back to many lifetimes ago. And I was with a younger girl, like a sister, I think, and there was a man there, and this man was, I think, was my father, and he was shaming me, and he was telling me to be silent because we were giggling and playing around. And in this moment, I asked my father at the time, from whichever lifetime, what is it that you're afraid of? Why do you not want us to laugh? And he said that he was afraid that we would leave, that this energy of laughter and joy actually made him feel insecure, like he wasn't enough, like he was failing, and that we would run away. And by the end, I was able to see the innocence and the vulnerability in this man. And it was such a powerful experience, actually. And I told my mum following this conversation, and she was really shocked. She said that this story sounded very familiar, or even though she hadn't heard it. But as she sat with it, she realized there was some resonance in her own life experience as well. And so we also did go into my birth experience. And what I realized was that I was projecting this idea of birth trauma onto my daughter, and I just presumed that she would have taken this on. But what came through was Araya didn't scoop up all the stories like I did when I came through my mother's womb. And just this realization of how easy it is to project stories onto others, and especially my daughter, because she couldn't speak and she couldn't tell me, and I kind of put her into the victim role. And from that moment, I was able to see and feel more of my daughter's essence and personality. I highly recommend connecting with Debra. Her energy for me felt so soft, so welcoming. I felt so at home. And I'm so grateful to have met her, because she really did shift my perspectives on things and cleaned out the lenses so I could see more clearly. And I just wanted to add that I will be including the pregnancy loss workshops and videos and ebooks in the Nourished Mother package. You can find the link in the show notes. And in there, it's gone into ways to support oneself during a active pregnancy loss and postpartum care. Plus, there is beautiful ebooks and recipes, and also a personal story from one of our members in there. And finally, our next live online circle is on the 26th of May, which is a Sunday. You can RSVP by clicking the link in the show notes, where it's donation-based or free within the membership. I really hope to see you there. We are doing a grounding and rebalancing practice. After all of the deep inner work we have been doing over the last few months, it's now time to come back to our body. Before we begin, let us just take a deep breath and notice where that inhale breath reaches to inside of our physical body. And as you exhale, welcome in that softness and that openness. Maybe you can sense some areas of unnecessary tension in your body that can gently melt in your loving awareness. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that you enjoy this episode. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a very special space.
Oh, wow. Since I read your book, I've been like, I can't wait to speak to you. And I've been following you on social media and seeing what you've been up to. And I just feel like the work that you're doing, what you're channeling in at this time is really incredible. And I would just love for more people to find your book, find your words and your essence, because reading it was really healing for me, helped me to put some pieces together that I was feeling but didn't have words for. So thank you.
Oh, yes. Well, thank you
Mm.
for reading it, but yes, it was a journey in itself. It took 5 years for that book to be birthed.
Mm.
And going through all the things of who am I to say this? What?
Yeah.
It just felt very futuristic, but actually it's now, it's the book. The messages are very much for now and the place that the world is in now and women are moving into now. So now I feel like I can own it more.
Mm.
Yeah, 3 years after it's published, I'm finally owning it more. So
Wow.
yeah,
That's beautiful.
it's a big journey.
So let's speak about it a little bit before we go in, because Rosa's Choice is the name of your book. And I would love for you just to share like where this inspiration came from and yeah, how it felt to channel this through into words.
Mm. So my whole spiritual journey, if you like, awakening, was all through my journey to motherhood, and that was I've got two boys very much here, and I've got five babies in spirit. So after my eldest was born, there was quite a lot of birth trauma around that, but that's a whole other story of healing. And then I had three miscarriages. And, I went really closed in. I didn't find a space that I could talk about it. I was very much, no, it happens, 1 in 4. I'm just unlucky. I don't get what just going into all those programs of, just get on with it. I didn't really want to face my emotions with those miscarriages at all. And then Rosa arrived in my life. Um, so after three miscarriages, then I kind of knew she spoke to me from the womb and she said, "Mummy, I'm sick." And I told my husband, said, "Oh, I've just, this is what I've just heard." And we were both like, "Oh, it's because the miscarriages, you're trying to protect yourself." And I just knew that something wasn't right. Excuse me, but I went through all the, those first scans and everything, and they didn't find anything wrong till about 16 weeks. But I knew that something wasn't right. And then they diagnosed her with various different genetic complications. So then I was faced with making the choice of going through the full pregnancy, not knowing if she was going to survive the pregnancy or survive birth, or what her life would be like, or face the decision of letting go of a very much wanted baby. So that was a real period of time coming to that decision. So I made the choice to release her, and that's her words. um, she says about termination, you're not we cannot be terminated. We're energy, nothing can be terminated, we just change form. You release us back into our whole selves. So she prefers the term release for the babies because they're just being born into, they're not being born on the earth, they're being born into wherever they wish and choose to be born into, whether realm. um so this was the moment that really, that was the moment that had me on the floor, like, what on earth is going on? How on earth am I going to be happy again? How am I going to manage life? And I I went after I went back to work. um, there was a pregnancy announcement at work, and I felt a split second of joy for the woman, obviously, but then went immediately into this massive trigger. What about me? What about my baby? And there's bitterness and anger and grief and all the things that I hadn't allowed myself to feel. So I took myself home and just sat in the garden and was like, oh my gosh, and I just thought, I'm not the woman who can't be happy for another woman. I'm not that woman. I'm not the woman who is bitter. I'm not this woman who feels all of these things I'm feeling. And then I felt heard this voice, my inner voice, or a voice from the outside saying, well, who is that woman who isn't all of these things? And I was like, oh my gosh, yeah. Who is that woman who isn't all these big emotions? And and I made this decision that this experience with Rosa would not define who I am. So this is not going to define who I am. I do not want to live my life with this shadow and with this. So I went on this massive healing journey. There was lots of synchronicities. Um, I was having counseling, and my counselor said, "You're approaching this from a very spiritual perspective." And I didn't even really understand the concept of that. And she gave me this book called Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian Weiss, which is all about going back into past lives and things. I mean, he's a really well-known psychiatrist. And as I was reading this book, I was like, oh, this is so true for me. And immediately all of my spiritual awareness and memories kind of came up. Of I just want to know more. I want to know more, more, more. And I was reading it on the tube, and then no one speaks to you on the tube in London. And this guy came along and said, "I've read that book, and I go to this spiritualist church, and why don't you come along and see if there's a message?" Then I was introduced to mediumship, and it was all these synchronicities. So that was, it was about 5 years. It was a good few, so this was like quite a few years, this like slow kind of finding different healing modalities, training in healing, all of these are opening up to my healing gifts and that we all have. And in terms of the book, I was out with some work colleagues, and one of them had, because I didn't tell it, I was full of so much shame of what I'd done, what the decision I'd made. I didn't tell anyone the truth. I didn't, there was a handful of people that I felt safe enough to say, no, it was my choice. So this my gorgeous friend from my former work, she said, well, what, I finally felt able to tell her the truth. It was quite a few years after. And she said, well, how do you feel now? And I said, oh my God, I feel really grateful. Rose has changed my life. And I was so surprised at this feeling of gratitude for an experience that had really just, really knocked me for six, thinking how am I going to come out of this hole? That I sat on the tube and I wrote on a bit of scrap of paper, how can I possibly feel grateful for an experience that was so so broken? And then I saw Rosa, not physic, but in my mind's eye. I was just in a different space, and she said it was my choice too, and we're going to write a book together. And I said, if we're going to write a book together, what does it look like? And she showed me this exact front cover, and which I've managed to the designer was managed to kind of get out of my head and onto the front cover. So she showed me the front cover, and I ran home to my husband and I said, I'd had a couple of glasses of wine with my friends, couple of bottles, and I was so excited. I'm going to write a book, and it's going to really help women because because I blamed myself. I felt like the failure. I felt it was all my fault, all of these things. And Rosa, in a second, had just gone, it was my choice too. And I'm going to write this book, and it's going to help women to understand that they're not alone on this journey together. Their babies are with them. Their babies have choices. Their babies aren't victims. They're not victims. This is all part of this big journey of life and soul journey. And so I made the commitment to write the book then. I thought I was writing part one of the book, which is all about the different experiences of why babies aren't able to stay or choose not to stay, or why they might be waiting to, from our perspective, waiting to come in. So really like the behind the scenes of conception. I didn't think I'd be writing part two or three, which is about divine feminine, masculine. It's about, greed, and it's about death, and it's about, it's about all those things we experience in life. And then, of course, the universe as well in part three. So, yes, so the book kind of grew into its own, version. But that's a very long way of explaining how I got to writing the book.
Wow, Debra, that's so beautiful and really moving for me. The way that you share the way that you use your words, I really felt everything. Thank you. Thank you so much. Whew. Okay, so I don't know why I'm so emotional recently. I'm so touched. So this exploration of connecting to these babies, these spirit babies, soul babies. For parents or for people that are preparing or hoping to conceive, whatever their journey has been so far, how can you explain that to people about this connection that you can have with this spirit baby before they actually arrive? Because for many, it might not have even been something that they've thought about. Maybe most of their awareness has been on the nutrition, the movement, the sex, the environment, the pollution. And this hasn't actually been one of the layers that they have looked at.
Mm, I know. Who knew it was possible? I certainly
Right.
didn't. Um, and it's something that's really like opened up for me, obviously. Um, and all of us, like it's like we all have an innate gift of intuition and connection, but we're just not told that, or we're not, it doesn't cross our minds, does it, until something isn't kind of going quite as we thought, and then we might start asking those questions. And that's what Spirit Baby have said, certainly about loss, is that there's a million reasons for loss, of course, but one of the messages that they come through with is that we come in to open you to the truth that there are other realms and other, more going on behind the scenes. There is connection beyond. And most people, I guess, have considered the idea of life after death. So once we leave this earth, where are we? Are they okay? And they might be thinking of loved ones. So that's kind of in the space already. But there's, of course, life before life. We don't just appear out of nowhere. We are energy floating about wherever, doing whatever we're doing. We have an essence that is always our essence, no matter what lifetime or no matter where we are traveling about in the universe. So it's life before life. Um, and they really they see everything like we were life before life, before we came here. We didn't just suddenly appear out of nowhere either, just because there was a sperm and an egg. There is so much going on behind the scenes. Nothing is left to accident or chance. Really, really not. We get to choose everything. We choose our parents. We choose where we live. We have an option to choose everything our souls plan. And um, so to help people into that idea of kind of life before life, it's what the babies very recently said. It's about alchemy, putting transforming energy into form. And when we are in our human selves, we can kind of think, I'm only human, or, we feel a bit powerless, but this is all just not like untruth. And they said, you are a master alchemist and a master energy, working with energy, or a master, or I like to add the to bring the mother birthing kind of energy into it, not the master, the master. Um, you have already like learn how to alchemize energy into form, and they want to be recognized as such in their process, like their energy, their essence. And there's a certain process they've shown me of how they come, what happens for us to come into form. And it's like really it's like this is incredible. It really is incredible. And this is how they wish to be seen. We're in our process of coming form. So they are master alchemists and like to be seen as such now. But they're saying, but you are too. Every single person walking on this planet, no matter what you think of them, is an alchemist, because they have managed to bring their energy into form. And of course, women allow that to happen, which is why women are absolutely off the charts, incredible, totally the opposite of what we've been told, shown, learned. We are the only, we invite in energy, and we allow energy to come into form, to nourish and nurture new consciousness into the world, new souls, new beautiful baby beings.
Mm.
Yeah, so this is the magnificence of women.
And just this conversation for me awakens so much. I'm like so trying to be with you, what you're saying. And every time you say a sentence, there's something comes through and it just awakens something and puts pieces together. I remember, wow, this just came through. I haven't thought about this for a while, but when I was in the retreat center in France, we used to do spiritual awakening sessions with this medium. So he used to teach us how to basically awaken our senses. And we would gather every week and we would be touching old things that are wrapped up and we'd be guessing where the story was. And it'd be things like that. And we do all these different kind of practices. And they were just like people from all walks of life in this small town in France. You wouldn't believe that we could gather like 12 people together every week. And it was incredible. And this guy called Nick, he actually he transitioned like 2 years ago. He died. And he was like my best friend there. And we would have these gatherings of just like drinking tea and doing these different practices. And one day we were not doing anything specific. We were just sat by the river having a tea. And then he just like stared into the corner and then his eyes moved across the room towards my body. And then he didn't say anything. I'm like, Nick, what just happened? He was like, nothing. I was like, come on, share with me. And he's like, I just saw this little girl with blonde hair and she ran to you and put her arms around your neck. And then he said, just close your eyes and just feel like that energy and what you felt. And that energy that I felt in that moment was like the essence. I love that word essence of how my daughter is. And she has blonde hair, like she has pigtails. And I feel that connection to that. Like I can't say for sure, but I definitely remember that essence that I tapped into and her essence as well.
Oh gosh, that's just so beautiful. And that's the thing, they are around us always. And it's just, we don't even have to be in meditation. It's just having those lovely moments. They really they take their opportunity, honestly, to sort of,
Mm,
I'm gonna give a sign, or I'm gonna, bring this feeling in. And every thought that you have about your baby or future baby is your connection, because thought is energy, it's
mm,
going out. So your every thought you have of them, you are actually in communication with them.
mm.
And there's a beautiful and you can have that desire for a baby from any age. um and that's when you're it really in you've been connection from them from that moment. And when you're starting to be open to, many people have a baby, being open to conception, to becoming a mum, becoming parents, then that connection just gets stronger. And it's either the baby, for the baby, it's the signal for them, and for you, that you are in your preparations here to become a parent, and they are in their preparations wherever they are to
Mm.
be coming into form, into the into to meet physically with their mum, and
Wow.
their parents. So it's so much, we are in our preparations here, they've got lots of preparations going on behind the scenes. And those moments that they're yeah, I just love that story.
Do
Really love
you
that story, because that's how it works.
because you say the word choice, which I love, like that's the word in your book. Do you feel that they can be waiting sometimes for us to make changes in our life so that they can come in? Big shout out to our sponsor, Evolving Humans, who are the pioneers for energy healing. This practice that I was taught 4 years ago has been studied by researchers all around the world to provide evidence of the physiological effects of energy healing. And I'm not just saying this because it's a promotion, but I have used this practice every single day for 4 years, and personally I've noticed the most impact in my emotional state. This energy practice taught me how to feel energy in my body and observe the sensations The technique involves you using your hand and connecting to the energy field within your body. And with this gentle, loving awareness that you bring to the table, everything is seen and lived. The whole being comes into alignment. During the birth of my daughter, I tore, and the discomfort that I was experiencing with this tear started to ease up dramatically when I would use this technique. In the show notes, you'll find the link to Evolving Humans so that you can explore this healing technique, which is available through a course that you can join today.
Yes, so I like to kind of say it differently, because there's no negotiation. They're not saying we're waiting until this, until you're better, or until you've done, there's like, there's a deal. It's
Right,
kind
like
of
an
a weird energy.
ultimatum.
Yeah, there's a weird energy. There's no deal breakers, you've chosen each other, that's it. But how they show it to me and how I choose to see it is that they see the truth of us. Like they see us in our pure essence. They know our foibles. They know they have, that we can offer them what they also need on their soul journey. So they are not, it's not about, I need to do this, I need to be perfect, I need to heal this or heal that. So yes, there's healing and there's awareness, of course, but it's not because you're not good enough for them and they're waiting for you to be good enough. They see your light, and what they are wishing is like they're lifting you into the truth of who you are. So it's like they're not waiting for you to be perfect. They're waiting for you to remember that you're more than what you're telling yourself at the moment.
Wow.
It's more that energy. So your rise, you're already ascended, because you've mastered coming into form, but we're expanding and to remember that we are already that. So, going through the layers of that. So they are like, they see you in the light. And what do they say? Their consistent messages. See, for us to see ourselves as they see us, which is pure love. So it's this
Wow.
lifting. So there's none of the I'm not good enough energy in that. It's like, oh, I'm okay, I'm lifting, I'm remembering more of who I am. So it's more that way round that they see it. So
That's
yeah, and
beautiful.
it's a
Wow.
different way of approaching it. Yeah.
Wow, how language and perception can really shift things from being in like, I'm not good enough state, or things have to be different, to that rising up and that somebody else seeing you like your essence. And I feel like that could guide us into the next question of like, how can parents make more space to connect to this baby? Because busy lives doing all these things to make sure that we are fertile can take the actual spiritual practice, or just being in complete presence and connecting to something that isn't like we can't physically see, might be the thing that actually gets pushed right to the back.
Mm. Yeah, because we can focus on the physical, and there's an awful lot of noise around
Mm.
conception, fertility, especially when you're in an assisted conception journey. There's so many opinions, from Auntie Flo to
Oh my gosh.
a doctor or whatever.
Millions
So
of
it's
books. Oh, no.
so many. So it's kind of clearing the noise and going, okay, so how do I feel? What am I feeling? What are my thoughts? What am I where am I at? And one of a really powerful question that I is so simple, is where is the power? So when you ask where is the power in whatever situation you're in, where is the power? And it might be, you might then recognize, oh, I've been giving that power to that person who made me feel
Mm.
vulnerable, or as an authority figure, and I've, gone along with that. Where is the power? It kind of, all right, so if the power is with me, then you feel like you've got more, your options and solutions, if you like, kind of you're in your own power, then there's more space to make your choices and know how you're feeling about things.
Mm.
But what the babies say, because a common question I get when I'm with clients is, well, what do I need to do? for them to for them to arrive physically. And they're like, you're offering us life. What else is there to do?
Mm.
So it's not about the doing. It is about more being more in the feminine of the receiving. We're so trained into achievement energy. If I do this, then I'll get this. If I try really hard at this, then I'm gonna, get that badge certificate. Baby, your baby's not an outcome of everything you're doing. Your baby is a soul in their own right. The outcome of your healing is that you just feel more empowered in your fertility
Mm.
journey.
Mm.
So now I've totally gone off forgotten what your question was.
How
Like,
can,
how do they find the space to create? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So awareness, it's awareness that they're there, or just even the possibility, like, oh, I wonder if our baby is out there. I wonder
Mm.
if you've had a thought of your baby, then your baby is there because
Mm.
your thought is your connection with them. So even just your thought, you are connecting with them.
Mm.
And it's like relearning communication. Like, we're talking in the way we're talking now. We're listening, everyone's listening in the way they're listening. Spirit baby communication is it's like remembering that there's a lot of other languages. So some babies like communicating in images, some
Mm.
communicate with feelings, some do communicate with clairaudience and kind of pop words into your mind. Telepathy, some are just about a knowing. um, so it's like opening up to a different way of communicating. And what they say is about noticing. So we see clouds every day, but one day you might look up and that cloud feels particularly, you notice it. If there's a different feeling or energy, then you might
Mm.
notice the shape of that cloud. It might be in the shape of an animal or an object. You're like, oh, so that's a message, that's
Mm.
communication. I love with flowers. We see flowers everywhere. But it's when we notice that particular flower with that particular color, that is
Mm.
communication. So it's being on your, in your daily life, just noticing that you've
Mm.
noticed thing that you
I
would
love
like,
that.
that you always see clouds, you always see flowers, but there's something that draws you in. So that's nature
Mm.
communicate, and they are communicating through nature. um it before you go to sleep, just sending that little thought out to them. And it's kind of, you feel your energy expanding. So I wonder if my baby's around, my future baby's around. And you kind of go in, feel into your heart. It's definitely not in the mind, but you're coming into your body. Your body is the only tool you need for channeling, for receiving your intuition. And I wonder if they're there. And if they are, it'd be gorgeous to let them know, I'm here, I love them. I'd love to
Mm.
know if they need anything, how they're feeling, if they have a message for me. And that may well come in, you may well feel that before you go to sleep. You're just, you may hear something, or your partner may say something, it comes in always. The radio might be on, or your phone might be on, and something comes in that way, or you might be in your dreams. So it's just being open to different ways of communicating.
Mm.
And we can't always find the time to create space, but before we go to sleep or before we get out of bed, if you can create space, absolutely beautiful. Light a candle, just candle gazing, and just imagine your heart. And imagine if you knew what the color of your heart energy was. And then you beam that color from your heart with the intention of it meeting the heart energy of your baby. And I wonder what color their heart energy is. And then this color will come into mind. And then you can see those two colors, like, joining together, so that, so you're merging. So you're, you know, beaming out your beautiful heart color energy, and you're receiving their beautiful heart energy. So do it with color, because words can be really complicated. Bring color into that.
I'm like in
Yeah.
meditation right now, talking to my spirit babies. Thanks. I'm gonna be pregnant tomorrow. I went
We'll talk about that after.
when I was before I got pregnant with Araya, it was so it was all surprise, wasn't planned. I'd only known Elon for like 6 months. But what happened to me a few months before I conceived was I got really interested in my womb, in doing certain meditations with my womb, like with my heart, opening, releasing things that hadn't really come to me, but it just came without me listening to a podcast or a book. And then I realized on reflection, the way that my daughter is, her essence, she's so interested in the womb. She's so interested in babies. And I feel like, yeah, because she's watching me because I'm doing it. But at the same time, I'm looking at her and I feel like she's reminding me, like the things that I'm doing now, I didn't do all the time, these womb practices before she was conceived. So I feel like there's that like co-creation and it's so familiar to me, this essence that came in just before she came into my womb. And then now she's on the other side. It's almost like this is familiar. She's my inspiration. I look at her and she reminds me. And so like as you're talking, it's just it just opens my heart to something that is beyond what we can see, like what we can physically see. But as you talk about nature as well, I was walking in the forest. This happened about 6 months ago. And I was walking and I was thinking to myself, a lot of the time I've spent my awareness is like moving out of my body to really look at the details on the leaves or something like that. And then I shifted something inside of me to look at the leaf and just feel inside of my body, well, like, where does that make me feel? Because that's actually where my experience is happening. And this completely shifted my relationship with the outside world because everything that we're experiencing is coming into us. So what is it when I am seeing something or hearing something, what is the feeling? And then that also then takes me out of the labeling of, oh, this is nice, this is pretty, or this means this, but it's actually more of an embodied uh, communication, relationship. And that doesn't need words, but at the same time, is beautiful to like explore what words would go with it, because that's like the poetry of this spiritual experience. And then I feel like the words, when shared as well, help other people to go a little bit deeper with their exploration too.
Mm, yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. And that's so beautiful that because, you know, bigger picture, we are of the same essence, if you like, of the tree.
Mm.
And we are the flower. And we are in co-creation with the earth. And this is bigger picture. So, just wherever you're at with that. Um, but we are in co-creation with the earth. In fact, only this morning there was the earth took us into healing within Gaia's energy. And this amazing woman had never really felt welcomed from her birth, and the earth was saying, I welcomed you, I welcomed you. The earth, it welcomes us, and it's the earth that's inviting and welcoming our baby. So we're in co-creation with the earth.
Mm.
There's
Oh,
much more that's going to unfold in that for all of us as we remember that connection with nature and with the earth. But
get
there's this
goosebumps.
beautiful energy of welcome. And you are in co-creation with the earth as well as with your baby, as well as with your partner, as well as with any
Mm.
donors or assisted your clinics, that kind of thing. It is a
Mm.
co-creation. But it's you co-creating with your baby, co-creating with the earth. And certainly around water is really, they love water. And
Mm.
of course, water, it's the same water that's been here since the beginning of time, and it holds memory and it holds our soul memories. So it's
Mm.
the water that kind of draws us back to earth because we want to reconnect with parts of ourselves in the water.
Mm.
So when you're wishing to connect with your baby, whether you're in the bath, the shower, or next to a beautiful ocean or a river, it's that, like, you'll feel that the connection just feels easier. The water's a real beautiful conduit, if you like, for your
Mm.
connection with your babies, because it's the water that holds. their memories as well as yours. So, you can feel a soul connection when you're near water. So anything with,
Mm.
in fact, one baby was asking their mum who didn't live by the sea, go and collect some seawater the next time you're by the sea, and then bring the water into the meditation when you're thinking of me,
Mm.
because it will be easier for us to connect when there's an element of the ocean next to your bed.
Wow, I have goosebumps right now. When you were talking about, this, the earth as part of this and calling in the babies to earth side as well. I think that is very healing for someone like me to hear, because I was brought into the world as a surprise, but my mum wasn't with my father and he never brought me up. He kind of just like left. Well, she was in the military, so she had to leave technically. But she raised me, but my grandma and granddad told her to get an abortion the whole way through. And she moved in the first 2 years from grandma and granddad's house to my aunties, to another aunties. And I talk to my mum a lot about these experiences as I go on my healing journey. And the message that comes through is like, um, the world didn't want me, but at the same time, my mum was like my protector. She like held me during all of this and protected me as well. And so like I see my mom, like her strength so much. She doesn't see it because of the words around her have made her forget it, but I'm on this other side and she is my protector. So I know her strength, but she doesn't know it. And then it's like the same thing what you're saying. The babies see us, our essence. And so now I'm physical and I'm like, I'm here and I'm like in this physical body and like I see it, but still she doesn't. And I feel like that's between mother and child. It's like there can be that awakening as we witness one another. And yeah, that just give me the chills of just this cycle and this giving and receiving through this partnership, through this relationship.
Oh my gosh, that's it's so powerful, because we can be in the stories around our mothers, and certainly our beliefs that we form in the womb, and that's a massive experience of, oh my gosh, I'm not wanted.
Mm.
So whether that's in a workplace or a country or with a relationship, that belief kind of follows us around until we're like, is that true? Where is that coming from? But it's for some reason that's what your soul was here to remember, that isn't the truth, if you know what I mean.
Mm.
But it is that it's really interesting, the perspective when you bring in spirit baby perspective on that. There was a spirit baby that was just, the essence is always love.
Mm.
Between mother and child is always love. Now when we come in and we've chosen that relationship as well, and that can be a really tough thing to try and get our heads around, when that relationship hasn't been as we like, as we might have needed or wanted. um but they were saying like, they oh sorry, what were they, it was like, the importance of the mother
Mm.
is all the stories as part of their own, the mother's soul journey and theirs, all the
Mm.
foibles, all the, whatever's going on, but the essence is always love.
Mm.
And they kind of turned that around the other day, saying some mothers, some women feel like they're not good enough for their children,
Mm.
or they're not important to their children, because what we're like as teenagers. We don't necessarily want to hang out with our mums. Um, but if this belief is being held by the mum, like, have I let my child down? Am I good enough for them? And that's just their own wounds from their own story around them, their mothers or the
Yes.
generations. But it's really so healing in terms of the story you've just shared, is that you recognize how important your mom is. It doesn't, whatever the stories, like her role, it's not the stories, it's her role. Like, she is so important. I mean, for obvious reasons of giving you life and protecting you, but because you're on that journey together, if you like, of remembering, I am precious as a soul, and you are precious as a soul, as my
Mm.
mother. I don't know, I'm not really explaining it very well, Spirit Baby explains it so much better than that. But
That
it's
was
like that
beautiful.
role reversal that we might think we're not loved by our parents as well, as because that, they weren't
Oof.
able to give us what we needed. But
Yeah.
it works the other way around as well, that sometimes our parents feel like we are not honoring them as they are, because
Uh-huh.
they're their own, because they're in that story themselves. Does that
Yeah,
make more sense?
yeah, no, totally. And I'll give another example of I feel like you're just sharing like my whole life without realizing it. But when my grandma died, she was on her deathbed. This was 2 years ago. At her home, she was surrounded by all the family, like the most beautiful thing. I couldn't be there. I was in Costa Rica and it was a pandemic. And anyway, my grandma had told me because I'd been asking her questions about her births, like her three childbirths at home when I was pregnant. I wanted to know her experience. And one of the questions that I asked her is like, is there anything that you regret or that you feel any guilt or shame around? I wanted to know like what was within her. And she told me that she feels a lot of guilt and regret that she couldn't protect her children in moments when the actual circumstances she didn't fully go into, but she just said, I just feel guilty that I couldn't protect my children. And so when she was in the moments before she transitioned, before she died, she was hanging on so much. Like she was in and out of consciousness, but she was, like so frail and she was hanging on and I could feel it. Like I was meditating with her and I'm like, what? Like, what you can release? I said, I said to them, like, why don't you go in one by one and share something with her alone? And so they did. And when it was my turn, I was on the camera and I said, you're forgiven, your daughters don't feel that you don't protect them. They love you and they see you. And I can't remember fully what I said. But anyway, after this whole gathering when everyone shared, she died the next within like 24 hours, she died. And I just feel so much about these beliefs that we hold about ourselves that really like smother our essence. But there is always that when you're talking about, like the baby can see the essence, like they can see it before all of that. And it's always that reminder. And even when I'm in my own meditations, it's like connecting to something that un is not biased. Like it will love you, it loves you unconditionally. It doesn't care. Like it's just it sees you. And that is just wow, it's just like the biggest hug because we can unravel on as much as we want about how society has distorted our mind and like whatever we've been fed for other people's agenda. Like that is of course like what has got us into these states and also like our ancestral line as well, what we're holding from that. And then there's something so simple of coming, feeling beneath them layers and feeling into that essence, which is beyond words, but so unique to each person.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. And my motivation, if you like, I've got many, but it's that idea of, if you're connecting with your baby before they arrive, how different would this world be if we felt seen, if we felt heard, if we felt understood before we even arrived? Then it wouldn't take 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years to unravel. Oh, I am wanted. I am seen. I am, and this is the whole kind of new, fertility conceptions really changing, because we're here to birth love and not to
Mm.
continue to birth the trauma that has been generations. So this connection with your future baby is is creating this incredible bond of understanding, getting to know their personality,
Mm.
there's gorgeous messages, there's all different kinds of layers. The babies have so much to share. um of just it just flip it they flip our perception, because they flip us out of the belief, or the wound that's created. I don't even want to call it the mother wound. It's more like a patriarchal wound that women and men are,
Yes.
tied into, and we're all kind of unpicking ourselves from them. But they just flip that perspective. Like, what do I want to, what do I need to do? You don't need to do anything. You're offering me life. Like, how
Mm.
much, how much more can that be? And, we just want you to see you as we see you, which is pure love.
Mm.
Um, value. There was this other little gorgeous baby today talking about value, and the mum's very much got a lovely, I've got a great career, and I really value that. And I really noticed that I have a judgment on mothers, and so many of the women I work with, there's this idea of, well, if I become a mum, I've kind of, does that mean I'm giving up and I'm sort of stepping out of society? Does it feel like I have to sacrifice? Is it sacrifice? Is it suffering? Is it all these things? And it's none of those things. And um, so this spirit baby was talking about value and said, if you don't value the mother energy, what
Mm.
am I arriving into?
Mm.
It was quite
Mm.
hard hitting, really. So
Oh,
you can
yes.
be all the career, you can be whoever, you can be who you are, but it's this honoring of the mother energy that has really been suppressed and diminished. And it's, oh, that's what women do. Babies are born. Until then, of course, it doesn't happen in that way. And then we might start exploring, okay, so what is going on underneath? But it's
Mm.
been so diminished, and mothers are, they're lead herships, I say, not leadership, lead hership. We're
Mm.
leaders in that way. And it's valuing the mother energy,
Mm.
because when you value yourself, your baby's arriving into this energy of value.
Oh, yes. Wow. And that's a really beautiful way to look at this term, the mother wound or the father wound, because it's like, the, I don't know. I really do feel like the language on this could be explored more because actually, when we just shift away from that terminology and we can see what is happening on a greater scale. We can see that the essence of this human being is through the filter of these distorted ideas from society of what it means to be a human, like all these ideas, and actually just like the knowing that being here, that's enough. You're worthy. You exist. Like, and I feel like when I've done a lot of work before on like my red thread and just the term like mother wound, doing practices and that. And really what I came to through all of it was it's not about that you have the best relationship in this moment in time. Like maybe they've passed on anyway. Maybe you don't know your mother or whatever, but it is getting to that understanding that there is an essence of her that you connected to, that you merged with, and if for some reason right now you don't feel like if you're in physical relationship that it's not serving you, that it's neglecting you or abusing you in some way, you can also have healthy boundaries with that physical person, right? And still honor the essence that she is because she'll understand that underneath what you're doing and she will be probably very grateful, the essence of her, that you're almost like having that separation so that you don't get hurt. And I don't know, I'm curious of what you think about that because that kind of just been coming through recently as I've been working on this. And I have a beautiful relationship with my mother. I don't need to push her away or anything, but I do know like we do this in circle and I see some women being like, but if I like go down this path, that means she'll come into my life and like I don't feel safe with her. So I'm curious about what you feel about that.
So it's just such a massive, massive topic. Um, feeling safe. Feeling safe is the key. Is the key to everything. Um, okay, so the mother wound. We are allowed to find our boundaries within that relationship. Absolutely, of course. And I'm just being reminded of another message from Mary Magdalene, actually. And I was with my gorgeous client, and she said, "But I'd feel disloyal if I say no to this. that I've always said yes to, to protect my own boundaries and all of these things, I feel disloyal. And Mary Magdalene came in instantly and said, are you being loyal to your mother, or are you being loyal to the wound that your mother is holding? And that was like, oh my gosh,
Wow.
like, do we want to continue to be loyal to the wound? So that was really powerful. And, it can really, our relationships with our mothers, we're here to evolve our parenting. So we are no longer birthing in the same traumas and the same patterns. We're here to evolve that. And if we've had a tricky relationship with our mother, we might parent, well, I'm not going to parent like that because of this. But you're actually still coming from the same wave of energy. It's just the other end of that wave of energy. You're not doing something because that didn't feel good for you. So, we want to find our own mothering. What is our own, and what does that mean to me? It's going to be unique to all of to everyone, not dictated by society, culture, or how you were parented. Whether that, I'm not going to do that because I didn't like it, so I'm going to go completely the opposite way. You're still kind of being loyal to the wound, even though you're not in the same pattern, if you like. So it's like
Yeah.
healing that, and coming into your own empowered sense of mother.
Wow, Debra, you are just like channeling some gems right now. And I realize we've gone over by 15 minutes. I could probably talk to
Oh,
you for like hours and
I
days and everything
know.
like that. I wish I could like come and sit with you in person, and maybe one day I will. Um, so thank you for all the work that you're doing. And I would just would love for you to share with the listeners where they can find you and if they can work with you online.
Yes, yes, they absolutely can. So I have a website, debrakilby.com. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram on Debra Kilby Healing. So yes, you can check me out there. Obviously, Rose's Choice is available on Amazon, and I've written an ebook, How to Communicate with Your Unborn Baby, which might be on my Instagram link if I put it on there after this.
I'll find
But
it.
lots of
I'm
ways.
good at finding things.
Yeah, it would be gorgeous to yeah, it's always gorgeous to meet and chat with with the incredible women of light who are birthing the light with their babies.
Thank you so much, Deborah. This was beautiful and super inspiring and exactly what I needed to hear because I have been focusing so much on the like physical right now as I'm getting this first part of the podcast together and just like bringing this back into balance is, oof, it feels so nice. Thank you.
And it is that beautiful balance of receiving and intuition, and that your masculine holding that space and then taking the act. It's just the same whatever we're doing. It's that balance that really matters, especially around, not especially, but of course also with conception and motherhood.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye. See
All
you.
right, lots of love.